Join me as I make a Pullman Pan wheat bread from freshly milled flour. Welcome to White Shadow Fare. Make it homemade and make it with love. I started by milling some hard white wheat. This is the style USA Pullman pan that I got. It is the largest size they sell at 13 inches by 4 inches. 2 cups of buttermilk or milk, 490 grams. Make sure that your milk or buttermilk is room temperature. To this, you're going to add 1 tablespoon or 9 grams of yeast. Give it a good mix and let your yeast begin to activate. 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter, 43 grams. 1/3 of a cup of honey, 111 grams. You could use a different sweetener or even use less sweetener if that's what you desire. 6 cups of hard white wheat flour, 679 grams, are going to be used, but we're going to start by adding just 4 cups to begin with. This is my first attempt at using the Pullman pan. It should give me a completely square loaf that is 4 inches by 4 inches in size, 13 inches long. I wasn't sure if I wanted a Pullman pan, but after I made this loaf, I realized how unique it was, and everybody in the family really liked the shape of the bread. So I've added just 4 cups. I'm going to cover it for 20 minutes, let it hydrate. So once it is hydrated, that's just giving it time to absorb all of the water and for the bran to begin to absorb and soften. I'm going to slowly add the final 2 cups of flour. Now, as you can see, it is clearing the sides of my bowl, but it is still sticking on the bottom as it spins around. 3 teaspoons of salt, or 15 grams. I use Redmond's real salt. I've just recently started using Redmond's real salt instead of kosher salt, but any type of salt will work. And as you can see, once again, I'm just slowly adding this flour. I don't want to add too much flour and make a dry mixture. This recipe for whole wheat bread was super easy to follow. And as you can see, I'm just slowly adding in the flour and giving it time to mix in between each addition. If you haven't already done so, please like this video and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. This bread gets kneaded for a total of 8 to 10 minutes, depending on what type of mixer you have. I use a Bosch universal mixer. My mixer's kind of old. It's about 12 years old at this point in time, and I did buy it used, but it's still working. It's in great condition, and these Bosch machines knead a little bit faster than other machines. So if you have something like a KitchenAid, it might take a little bit longer to knead. Of course, since I'm human, I would love to have one of those beautiful other machines, but I don't see a reason to get rid of my trusty Bosch machine. Probably will buy another one if this one ever goes. So I'm going to touch the dough here, and really I'm just looking to see if any of the dough sticks to my hands when I touch it, and you can see that all over my knuckles is some of the dough, so it is still just too sticky. It just means I need to add more flour. So every once in a while I will stop the mixer and feel and make sure that I have the right amount. I like to get my dough very stretchy. As you can see, when I give it a pull, it's kind of ripping apart, so it's not where I need it to be yet. That's called checking for the window pane, so I let it go for another couple of minutes, and then I'm going to stop it again and check once again for that window pane. And you can see how stretchy this is. It's not breaking, and my window pane is very good there. Window pane just means I can get it very thin without it breaking apart. Now that doesn't mean that you won't be able to stretch it to the point where it will break. Of course it will break if you stretch too far. And that's all there is to this dough. It's a very simple dough recipe. It does make an awful lot. This would be equal to 2 9x5 pans. So if you don't have a Pullman pan, then you can just bake this into 2 loaves of bread. So I'm finally where I want it to be. It's nice and stretchy. I can get it very thin, so it's time to move on and let this dough rest and rise. My family likes to eat toast, so we go through quite a bit of bread. I'm making several different loaves a week, and we have a couple of loaves of bread that we love to make, but I like to always try something new, and this is definitely a recipe that I'll be trying over and over again. The great thing about baking with whole wheat is all the nutritional benefits and fiber that you get, along with how delicious it is. And when you are using freshly milled wheat, the taste and the nutrition increases by a ton. So once again, I personally eat this for toast every single morning. I eat wheat bread for sandwiches and even sometimes just as a snack. After watching a few of Sue Becker's videos and reading her book, I realized that I should be incorporating more wheat bread into my life, and this is just another recipe that I'll be adding to my list of fantastic fresh milled flour recipes. When you're dealing with freshly milled flour, you just have to remember that the end result is going to be a delicious, nutritious loaf of bread. You can, of course, use store-bought wheat to make this bread, and it would come out fine, but nothing beats the flavor of freshly milled flour. So at this point, it is done. I'm just removing my kneading hooks here, and I'm going to cover it up and let it rest for close to an hour. This is a very large batch because once again, it's going to make the equivalent of 2 loaves of bread. Very soft, supple dough, so I'm just gathering it into a nice taut ball, putting it back in, and I'm going to cover it up. So this is what the Pullman pan looks like if you don't have one or if you haven't seen one before. You don't need to oil it according to the website, but I just felt that it would be safer to oil the pan first. So I just made sure I got oil all around it. This is, once again, a USA Pullman pan. It was just a fun little gift that I bought myself to see if I would like making bread this way. I did look at several thrift stores for months looking for one, but just never found one. So I'm going to stretch out my dough to the width of my pan, and then I'm going to roll it up and place it inside the pan. So give it a nice tight roll. You're going to tuck in the ends, then you're going to pinch the seams. And I like to roll it out a little bit over top of the seam just to make that seam go away, and flatten it once I put it into the pan. Just using the back of my hand to flatten it out and give it a good push down to make it completely even. And you're going to slide the cover, if you're using a Pullman pan, on top, and you're going to let it rise until it's about 1/2 inch from the top of the pan. You're going to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I did look at it partway through and I learned a valuable lesson here. You need to remove that lid quickly. When I first tried to remove it, it was stuck to it, and you can see I've got a little funky looking end there. And then when I read up on it, it said that you need to remove that lid very quickly because it kind of does bake to the top of the lid. And I'm just touching it. One, it's hot, and I just love the sound of the bread when it's completely cooked and it's hollow. So you can see those little ridges there from where I was a little hesitant taking the lid off too slowly. The great part about this bread is you can slice this super thin or super thick. So whatever it is you like. If you want to have it like a piece of Texas toast where it's really thick, that would work for this. It made fantastic French toast. We had that for breakfast a couple of days after making this loaf. Clearly it fits easily into my toaster oven. Sometimes some of my bigger loaves don't fit quite into my toaster. But there is nothing that beats packing a lunch or a piece of toast for breakfast or even a snack from homemade wheat bread with your fresh milled flour. I hope you'll give this recipe a try. Pullman loaf for the win. Thank you for joining me here at White Shadow Fare.